Welcome to the Unpacking It Live podcast presented by Medi-Share. I'm Bryce Johnson with Luke Heaton, Henry Bieneme. For the next hour, we will unpack sports, faith, and life with you, our Unpacking It community of sports fans. Thanks to everybody listening on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, LinkedIn. Glad to have you here. The chat is open. Be sure to let us know your thoughts. What are you convinced of today? Henry will be there interacting with you, and always appreciate your feedback and interaction with the show. Thanks everybody that listens to the podcast later on, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And thanks for the emails, Bryce at unpackingit.com. Today on the show, yes, I will talk about Duke losing to UNC on Saturday night. As a Duke fan, it was a painful Saturday night. I'm still recovering. Shed a few tears today watching some of the aftermath of that game. Tears of joy, tears of sadness, and everything in between. So we will do that during our Unpack This segment. So the good news about that loss, of course, Tar Heel fans are loving life today and have been the last couple of days. They're celebrating like they won the national championship. So congratulations to them. They took down the town at Chapel Hill. But the good news is there is a spiritual application for us that we can all be encouraged by today. So we will get to that in just a little bit. We'll have some fun with Tap Drill. As you know, we've been keeping an eye on the broadcasting carousel, and it looks like Kirk Herbstreit has found an additional spot to broadcast. So we'll get into that. Lots going on in the NFL following the combine. I personally don't get into the combine numbers, but there are a lot of stories that are going on in the NFL, and especially with free agency coming up and potential trades and movement. That's exciting to me. That's what I get most fired up about. And then we will do I'm Convinced here to start in just a moment, and I'll let you know what I'm convinced of in regards to LeBron James. But plenty of Duke Carolina talk today on the show. So I think if you're on either side, or even if you're neutral, there'll be something that you can connect with and offer some feedback on as well. But before we jump in, I do want to thank our presenting sponsor, Medi-Share. Medi-Share is an innovative healthcare solution for Christians looking to save money without sacrificing on quality. Medi-Share is a biblical, affordable alternative to health insurance. You can text the word UNPACK to the number 201-201. And you can also check out medishare.com/unpackingit and get some information, figure out if it is the right fit for you and your family. It's been great for my wife and I. We've been members for over 5 years, and Medi-Share has provided us with an affordable and effective way to pay for healthcare. We will do the Medi-Share moment of the week in a little bit, and it involves soccer. Ooh, a little soccer. And I'll be leading the way. It's not Luke leading the way on this one. It's me. So we'll do that as well. So we got a lot to get to on this Monday. Luke, how you doing? How was the weekend? What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what. I am thrilled to talk some footy, some soccer, baby. So we are all eager, myself and all of our listeners and viewers. How are you going to right the ship? How are you going to lead the soccer conversation? Also, as a neutral college basketball fan, great day for the Jayhawks. Big 12 champs again. Got a big overtime win against Texas to have a share of the Big 12 with Baylor. So another great year to be a Jayhawk. And I am convinced we have entered into the greatest part of the year for sports fandom. Now, I do acknowledge the glory of October. So many professional seasons start, and there's so much excitement. Football's in action, basketball starting, NHL starting, baseball playoffs. We talked last week. MLB playoffs are great. Regular season, not so much, unless you're a diehard baseball fan. But March and April, oh man. Just by virtue of having March Madness and the Masters, I mean, come on.
I love it.
MLS, Major League
I love it.
Soccer is in action. We got Champions League soccer in Europe going on. Golf is, it's just, I am so excited. I'm a huge college basketball fan. Basketball fan in general, growing up playing hoops. That's my first love as a sports fan. So I love watching it and then getting super nerdy about it. So I've been watching college basketball all season long, and my goodness, am I excited for this year's NCAA tournament and the conference tournaments going on right now.
Let's
the small
go.
conferences, who's going to get a bid? The big conferences like UNC, their seeding is increasing. So I'm convinced we're in the greatest part of the year for sports.
Well, last week we talked about all the top teams losing, and now throw Duke in the mix with that. So yeah, we're heading into the tournament with all the top teams suffering a late season loss, which is fascinating. And then we'll see how they bounce back in the conference tournaments. I am bummed that App State lost in the Sun Belt tournament, so they're out. They went to the tournament last year, so my alma mater is done. But I've been a college basketball fan since I was probably 10 years old, and Duke was that team. And so I will share those thoughts in a little bit. Before I tell you what I'm convinced of, though, I did want to share a big win from the weekend. So despite the loss Saturday night, I got a win on Sunday. And here's the win. Have you ever been to Trader Joe's? Do you have that in Texas? Is that a grocery store? Is that one that you frequent often?
Well, my perspective is hipsters and wives typically frequent it. I have been on one solo mission there, but it has developed an amazing brand. People love it. It's good.
Love it.
But it's fascinating.
So I'm a big snack guy. I'm a big guy, big snack guy, however you want to put it. But
hummus.
I love hummus, but I love bags of snacks. That's my downfall. And Trader Joe's has the absolute best. They've got creative snacks. They've got snack mixes. They've got all sorts of nuts. They've got it all. So yesterday, we don't live near one, but yesterday we took the journey. Jody, my two daughters, the four of us as a family piled in to our SUV and drove a pretty good trip. Little Michaela napped on the way.
How long?
It's a good 30 minutes. Probably a good 30 minutes.
Wow, 30 minutes to a grocer. All right.
To a grocery store. And all we had was 1 hour to get everything we needed.
Okay.
And so because we don't go often, that means we needed to get everything.
Oh, yeah.
From fruit to snacks to dinners, everything in between, we had to do it. But here's the thing. You go on a Sunday to Trader Joe's, and it is chaotic. It is packed. You are in there trying to survive. It is, you go in there with a mission.
Every man for himself.
And that's the downfall. Listen, I think it is biblical to love others and put others ahead of yourself. But that is challenged to the utmost degree when you step into a Trader Joe's, because you're exactly right. It is every man for themselves. There is no courtesy. There is no you go first. There's none of that. There's no time for that. There's no room for that. You are jam-packed in there. So we had a push cart with Michaela in it, my 6-month-old, and then the cart with the groceries with Maddie. And so the big win, though, is that we survived, and we spent what should have been 2 weeks worth of groceries in one effort, in one 1 hour effort. And I am now stacked with snacks.
I was about to say, so you're loaded.
I'm ready. I've got Cheetos. I'm good. I got Fritos. I'm in. I've got this little seaweed thing, flavored seaweed.
What?
I've got it all. So March Madness, the man cave is open. Those of you in Charlotte that want to watch games, I'll be watching games and eating Trader Joe's snacks. And I did that on a Sunday with 2 babies and my wife, and we survived.
Your taste buds.
Good for us.
Your taste buds have no idea the torment that is coming. You're gonna give your taste buds Cheetos and then seaweed. I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah,
that's a very diverse portfolio there. Very impressive.
Praline pecans. So it's all set. So that's the win. But here, I'll get to the Duke Carolina. I know people are, what does Bryce think about Duke? All right, we'll get to it. But here's what I'm convinced too, because Saturday night, following the Duke Carolina game, we saw an incredible performance from LeBron James. Now, the days and weeks kind of leading up to Saturday night, everybody has written off the Lakers. Everybody has kind of said, forget this season. It's over. Now,
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. It cracked open the door. Even on Saturday, I was with my family and I told him, oh yeah, Lakers are done. Season's over. And I like the Lakers. I like LeBron. But he drops 56 on Saturday night. And here's what it confirmed and what I'm convinced of, because I've been convinced of this almost his entire career. I'm convinced that LeBron James can score whenever and however he wants. And for whatever reason, he chooses not to do that. And he showed Saturday night that he still got it. He still can score however much he wants, however he wants, and whenever he wants. Now, he prefers to get his teammates involved. He prefers not to carry the load night in, night out, which is allowed him to play as long as he has and at as high of a level as he has, now at 37. Now, unfortunately for him, he finds himself with a roster that it just isn't going to win. And so he's got to do even more just to try to win. But I'm convinced it's not sustainable and it's not going to be enough to make the most of this season. And really it's championship or bust at this point in his career. And they're not a championship caliber team, even with Anthony Davis. And so I'm also convinced that throughout LeBron's career, he has played with so many different teammates, a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different styles of people and personalities and all that kind of thing. And for the majority of those guys, the ones that were willing to adapt to him and were willing to jump on the LeBron train did well for themselves, and it resulted in winning championships, trips to the finals, deep playoff runs. People bought in. Well, LeBron met his match. Russell Westbrook is not willing to adapt.
Met his match.
He's not, it took all these years. What is this, year number 17 or whatever? 2004 he was drafted. So finally in this year, now LeBron has somebody that is taking up so much of the cap space that it really matters. Now, if one of these lesser known players over the years didn't buy in, well, they would just ship him out of town. They trade him at the deadline. They couldn't do that with Russell Westbrook. And so he's stuck with them. But it's just crazy that Westbrook isn't willing to adapt and buy in. And that's what's holding them back in a big way. And they're going to get rid of him in the offseason. Apparently there's no way to salvage it because Westbrook just won't change. And I'll even go back to, last thing. So Kyrie Irving, a guy that's not willing to adapt. He's not a winner. He's not a winner except for playing with LeBron. And he was only willing to do it for a short time because otherwise he's not really willing to adapt, as we've seen. It didn't work out in Boston. It's not going to work out in Brooklyn, I promise. It didn't work out at Duke. And so Kyrie Irving, other than LeBron being able to get him to buy in, at least for that one big championship run, and then Kyrie goes, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to try to do it on my own. Well, good luck, buddy. Good luck. And same with Russell Westbrook. It'll be fun when you're playing for the Kings or the Magic. So enjoy.
Yikes.
All right, there you go. That's what I'm convinced of.
Can we just pause and say out loud that 37 years old, 37. When you hear of any other player that's 37, you think, wait, how are they still playing in the league? What team wants them? And yet LeBron is still one of the most coveted players in the NBA. He's 37 years old. And in NBA years, he's 88 years old. Yep. He shouldn't be hardly anyone should be in the league when they're 37 because they can't play anymore. And yet I agree with you. Most nights he can do whatever he wants, which I think is part of learning what the NBA is. That's perhaps one of the biggest differences from college to NBA is people harp on defense in the NBA. Oh, why didn't they play better defense? Got to play better defense. To some extent, yeah, you can play better defense. Teams, you should give effort. You should work to improve your defense. But at the end of the day, these guys are actually unguardable. You can't, no matter what you do. You talk to players about Kevin Durant, no matter what you do, he's going to score. He's 7 feet tall and could dribble like a guard. He's just going to shoot over you every time, no matter how close you are to him. Guy like LeBron, he's going to score whenever he wants. Guy like James Harden, he's going to, well, maybe not now, but still now. He's going to score whatever he wants. Like the NBA is especially now where touch fouls are called. You can't be as physical on defense. It's an offensive game. The defense is at such a disadvantage because of the rules and because of how stinking good these guys are on offense. The defense is hopeless. It's just, how can I minimize the damage? In minimizing the damage for LeBron the other day was, let's not let him get to 70. Yeah, 56, and we'll still try to win. It's just, it's remarkable. The NBA is at such a high level on offense. It's crazy.
But he's never been motivated by points. It doesn't appear like that. Doesn't seem when you watch him. It's like that's not his main motivation.
No, he's not a point and yet he's
he's
already top 5 scoring all time. Like that's why people say he's like magic or he's got some magic in him because he's such a great passer. Like LeBron is one of the best passers of all time.
No question.
That is such a slept on attribute of him. He is such a good passer. So no, I agree with you. He's not a point chaser.
No. But maybe this year, now that they're kind of out of championship contention, they may or may not sneak into the playoffs. I don't think they will, but he could win the scoring title. So maybe that's what he's after at this point. It adds to the resume. I
still say if they make the play-in games, I don't want to play the Lakers because it's playing LeBron. And if it's just no matter what has happened that season, one game on the line, and you can say, all right, LeBron, we need 50 points out of you. LeBron can go get 50.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man.
So there you go. That's what we're convinced of. Let us know what you're convinced of. Leave your comments wherever you're watching right now, or email Bryce@unpackingit.com. So we're going to unpack this about Duke and Duke losing to Carolina and the big win for UNC. But I've got some other thoughts to go along with the spiritual thoughts as well. But I got to tell you, going into the game, it was highly anticipated. ESPN went all in on the coverage. And so there was so much hype, so much buildup. And as someone who's been a Duke fan for so long, there was almost this assumption that Duke would just go out and win the game. It was almost like not even fathomable that Duke could lose this. And I give a ton of credit to UNC and Hubert Davis, and he's a former guest on the show. I like Hubert Davis.
Awesome guy.
I'm rooting for Hubert. I couldn't believe the negativity surrounding him from Carolina fans throughout the season, and it seems like this win has cemented him. Kind of some of the doubters. All right, this guy is going to figure it out. He's a great coach,
and his players love him. His players love him.
Absolutely. There's nothing not to like about him. Now, that looks like Chris Carroll and Nolan Smith don't like him so much, but that's another topic. We'll let social media have that one.
I was reading that Hubert Davis was on the last Carolina team, unranked Carolina team, to beat a top 5 Duke team at Cameron. Hubert Davis was on. So kind of coming full circle there. But about Hubert Davis, and he was on record saying, you know what, I heard all the chatter. But he literally was saying, I'm in this for these players, for these kids, for these students, and I want to impact their lives.
That's right.
He's just an awesome too. Yeah. If you haven't heard his interview, that Bryce had him on, it's awesome. He is, even as a Duke fan, Bryce is you're a diehard Duke fan, and yet you have nothing but good things to say about Hubert Davis, and which is true. Hubert Davis is awesome.
Yeah, so we'll give him a little love, but now I got to focus on the Duke side of things.
Yeah,
so we got to give Coach K some love today as well. But going into the game, I just assumed they would win. But I also thought to myself, tonight isn't about the game. Tonight is about Coach K being celebrated, and it's about Coach K and his final game. Now, when the game ended, I didn't feel that way. I felt devastated. Oh. I haven't been that upset about a sporting event in a long time. I have grown and matured as a follower of Jesus. I've grown as a sports fan. I try not to let games, dictate my emotions as much. But I got to tell you, following that loss, I was beside myself, and you could see in the crowd. I mean, people didn't know what to do. To think how loud that arena was, Cameron Indoor, before the game, during the game, And compare that to how quiet it was after the game.
Oh,
That was remarkable. Very rarely do you see an opposing team celebrating to such silence. I mean, there were
oh
a few
no.
parents there from UNC, but there weren't many fans. I mean, there were very few Tar Heel people in that arena. That was a Duke crowd, no doubt about it. And they were all there stunned. And I felt that same way sitting in my recliner. And I didn't think that was going to be the case because I thought, well, no, tonight's just about K. But the fact that the players let him down and couldn't come through and get the win, it was hard to swallow. It really was.
Do you wish that it wouldn't have been Duke Carolina for his last home game? So as a neutral fan, Duke Carolina is awesome. No matter who's ranked, who's unranked, no matter how well they've done that season. Like Coach K's record is around 50% against Carolina.
It's above
very
50%.
very even series.
50 to 47.
And I was watching that game, and after the game, I was thinking, for the Carolina players, it's all about the game. To them, it's can we go in and beat Duke? For them, it's all about the game. But for Duke fans, and for the narrative for a neutral sports fan, it was, oh, this is Coach K's last home game. It's all about him. And after the game, I'm thinking, wait, no, this is one of the biggest rivalries in sports, and we almost lost that because it was about Coach K. So I was thinking, I was kind of disappointed that it turned out this way. I would have almost rather it would be Middle State College coming to Cameron Indoor, wipe the floor with them, and then celebrate Coach K. So as a sports fan, I was disappointed that we didn't get it. It wasn't a true Duke Carolina game because it felt like really only half of the people were in it. That's what it felt like.
No, my thought is, even as a Duke fan, listen, this was as I'll talk about in a moment, it was unacceptable. This should not have happened. But because it did, as someone who also just loves sports and loves rivalries, this is fantastic for the rivalry. Because UNC, I mean, this moment in sports history will never be seen again, as far as a guy being in a program for 40 some years and builds a program out of nowhere and builds it to the cream of the crop in the sport, and then coaches his entire career there, and then to go out when he wants to go out and to have a moment where he's actually celebrated, and then for that to be ruined by the rival. This just adds to the tradition. This adds to the hatred, the sports hate that's there. And so that to me is a phenomenal thing. Let's go. Cause now I want to play Carolina in the ACC championship. It won't make up for this, but it'll help. And then I can't wait for next year when, UNC, let's pretend, well, I don't even know if they can be number one in the country, but they're number one. And then Duke knocks them off, and it just builds and builds and builds year after year. And so I think listen, trust me, as a Duke fan, it's brutal. It's awful. But this is great. This is the fact that they could pull this off. Good for them. Good for them.
No, I definitely see that. I guess I'm just kind of going your route. Like, you don't like your food to touch. I don't know if I want the Duke Carolina rivalry game to mix over with Coach K's sending off party. Because I don't think you can, in the moment, you can't have both. I agree with you. It makes for a great storyline, and we're going to be reading about this, and Hubert Davis and these Carolina players are going to tell their grandkids about this moment. Go watch. I beat Duke. We beat Duke in Coach K's last game at Cameron Indoor. They're going to tell their every person in their family forever. Hey, I'm so and so. I beat Duke Coach K's last game. So I know it's going to happen. But in the moment, I struggled because I couldn't have both in my mind. I wanted to either have one or the other.
It did seem like it really rained on his parade to add that to the cliche.
Brutal. Imagine being his players after that game, sitting on the bench. I mean, I would have felt humiliated.
Yes.
Now they shouldn't. It's a game, but I would have felt humiliated, especially with the 100 former players coming back. Yes. All of that, to be a current player and lose that game to an unranked Carolina. Oh man. Oh.
I don't know how I don't know how they could show their face in front of the legends. Like,
I
they
know.
let the legends down in a big way.
Yeah.
Like they built, like, those legends built this program with Coach K. They all played a role in that. And they wanted it to kind of all culminate. You beat your rival in Coach K's final game. We're all here. We
Yeah.
all celebrate. And you guys couldn't hit a shot with 5 minutes to go. And you
Yeah.
couldn't stop Carolina at all. So,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
absolutely. I was watching them come out. I was almost like, no, just stay in the locker room. Don't bother. We don't need you out here. We don't need you. Stay
And I
in
don't
there.
think Coach K could have enjoyed it. How could he enjoy? I mean, he could, but he must have been fuming. We saw him during the game. He was all over the place.
Yeah.
No matter what
He
he
was
was going to
beside
be
himself.
celebrated with, he's still coaching that team.
Yeah.
So I don't that it didn't work out how we wanted it to. But for Carolina fans, to your point, they're on cloud 9. That's one of the biggest Carolina wins in the Carolina Duke rivalry, probably.
It's as good as it gets. Yeah, that was amazing for sure, for them on that side of things. But for us today, I want to look at this story and parallel it to our own lives as we unpack this, and we always take current sports stories, relate them to the Bible, relate them to our own lives. This devotional will go out through email later today, but it goes out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can subscribe if you haven't already on our website, unpackingit.com/subscribe. So today's Unpack This. The big takeaway for me was what Coach K said after the game. And so they had this whole program planned, but then he went out and said, no, I got something to say. And that was a hilarious comment where he's like, no, stop, listen up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Be quiet. But here's ultimately, let's see what he said. He said, today was unacceptable, but the season has been very acceptable, and the season isn't over. All right. So that's what he said. And for me, you look back at this game and you go, okay, this was a mistake. This was a loss. And you can ask, the questions afterward. It was like, okay, was the team too distracted? Did they let their emotions get the best of them? Were they unprepared for what the enemy or UNC was able to do to them? Was the night more about looking back on Coach K's career than it was about the present game? Was the team too comfortable after blowing UNC out the first game of the season? Were they already looking ahead to the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament since they already secured the ACC regular season crown? And did Duke just run out of energy, or was their defense just not good enough? It was UNC more prepared and more hungry for that game, and so. To me, this perspective that Kay had was, hey, it's unacceptable. The season has been very acceptable, and the season isn't over, is absolutely true, because ultimately the best way to finish his career and for the players to honor Coach K is to go win a championship. Yeah. Go win the NCAA championship. And that's the way you really want to finish off a career. Like that trumps even what could have been a cool home game win against UNC. It's about the championship. And so, sure, they're unhappy about the big loss, but their plans and goals to actually go beyond the regular season. Like, it's not just about winning the ACC regular season or even winning that game. It's a setback, but it doesn't have to derail Duke from what they're really trying to do this year. And so today I want to unpack how some of these elements parallel our own lives. And when we set out on our journey of following Jesus, we plan on, it's our goal to win every game, so to speak, for him. We want to live for him, and we want to do what's right, and we want to shine in big moments for him. And although we want to do what's right, sometimes we stumble. Sometimes we lose in a surprising way, and we make mistakes, and we don't come through. We don't follow through. And James 3 reminds us, indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect and could also control ourselves in every other way. And so we know we're not perfect. We know we're going to make mistakes. And so when mistakes happen or our plans and intentions don't play out how we thought they would, it can be very disappointing and painful. And we end up asking some of the same questions that I just listed off in regards to the game. Did we we asked, how could this happen? Did we get too distracted? Did we let our emotions get the best of us? Were we unprepared to handle the enemy's attack? Were we too busy looking back on previous successes? Did we get too comfortable? Were we too worried about the future? We weren't focusing on the present. Did we run out of energy, or our defense wasn't good enough? And so all those questions are good for us to evaluate in life and help us grow and learn. But we got to have a similar kind of mindset to what Coach K said. This can ring true in our own lives. Today was unacceptable, but the season has been very acceptable, and the season isn't over. All right. And so how does this look for us in our own lives? Hey, we confess our mistakes and the sin that's in our life. We agree with God that it is unacceptable. And then we've got to remember that because of Jesus' death and resurrection, despite a loss, we are still declared accepted by God through grace when we place our faith in Jesus. 2 Corinthians, for God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin so that we could be made right with God through Christ. And so we can't allow a loss to derail us for long, because our season isn't over. And God's ultimate goals and plans for us go beyond the regular season. So we may have let him down for a night, but thankfully he is still with us. And so ultimately we can finish our lives on earth victorious. And that's the goal. We want to see Coach K finish victorious from a basketball standpoint, but we want to finish our lives on earth victorious. And the good news is it's already true. It's already true. When we place our faith in Jesus, as it says in 1 Corinthians, thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And so the season isn't over. We've already won. And that's what we cling to, even on the games that we fail, the nights that we mess up, and the mistakes that we make. It's unacceptable, but we're still accepted. And we're still accepted in Christ. And so that's the message. We'll pull from Coach K a little bit for that encouragement. So you can unpack that today. Luke, what do you think?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. And I would say, like, as someone who's followed Christ for many years, and if you're listening, this isn't something new. Like what Bryce shared isn't something new, but it is important to hear all the time. Praise God that it is not up to us on if we're accepted or not. That if we have an unacceptable day or season, however long or whatever that looks like, the fact that we're still accepted as sons and daughters because of God's grace and mercy to us, that is worth repeating and reminding ourselves and sharing with others and praying through every single day. Because it's foolish in the eyes of the world. Like the Bible and the Bible talks about the wisdom of God is foolish in the eyes of the world. But it is true that we are accepted no matter what we've done. And also considering we're going to remain accepted no matter what we will do. Now, obviously, that does not mean, oh, I can do whatever I want because God's forgiven me. Romans 5 and 6 directly talks about that. Should we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We're called to live a new life because we've been genuinely transformed, but we know that we still sin on this side of heaven. And it's just so worth celebrating. I'm acceptable to God because God has chosen to accept me out of his mercy and his grace. So I think that's a great reminder, looking at the Duke game on Coach K saying tonight was unacceptable, but the whole season is acceptable. That is a great example of what we're saying for our faith on. Reflect on your own life. I think in my life, there's been plenty of times where I've done unacceptable things. I've been unacceptable in the eyes of God. I was born unacceptable, but yet because God has declared me acceptable, it's because of his grace and mercy. And I don't know, it's so worth talking about because it's almost unfathomable that, man, how great is that? So I think that's a great reminder So thanks to Coach K for helping us out on the podcast with a great example. But
That's right.
I think that's a great example of what we experience in our lives as followers of Jesus.
Amen. So check out the devotional in written form, email form later today, and so you can contemplate it a little bit more. And if you ever want to join us on a Wednesday unpacked lunch, we unpack one of the stories from the week, one of the devotionals from the week over lunch, virtually noon to 1 Eastern. And so if you ever want to be a part of that, you can shoot me an email, Bryce at unpackingit.com.
It's a
We'll have
great
anywhere
time.
from, just a handful of guys to a dozen guys or so. And maybe never more than that. It's usually less than a dozen, but would love for you to be a part of that sometime if you're interested. All right. So that's the spiritual side of things. A couple other, even other spiritual thoughts as well, just about this game and about even Coach K and his career coming to an end. Going in and even throughout the season, I've appreciated other coaches honoring Coach K. Of course, Jeff Capel at Pittsburgh did because he's a former player and assistant coach. And Tony Bennett, I thought, was really cool at Virginia, the way that they honored Coach K. And it was awesome with all the players there and them all giving him a dab and high fives coming out of the tunnel. It was really cool. But I always get a little cringy when it comes to the worship of the guy that we're honoring. And it's such this fine line in sports that we're guilty of this as sports fans, because the reality is, I did a sermon on this in my church, that, we're made to worship, and it comes out in sports oftentimes. We could do a whole segment on this, but the idea that people were, using their hands to praise Coach K, I don't like it. I can't, as a follower of Jesus, who my awe and adoration is for him, and ultimately him alone. Now I'll give honor to people and respect, and we're even called to honor people. And so there's a certain level that's great in that. But man, some of these people, like some of these crazy, they're called Cam and crazies for a reason. It goes too far. And even as a Duke fan, it's like, pump the brakes. But you know what I was thinking about? It's like, okay, we respect these guys for what they do and what they accomplish. But I actually think if you really dig deeper, it's actually more than that. One, we're designed to worship, but we're ultimately designed to worship God. But the other thing is, I think our appreciation for athletes and coaches is more about the memories, the personal experiences, the personal enjoyment that they've given us. And so, like, especially for me as somebody who was a Duke fan as a kid, and I have all these memories watching them and seeing all those players, to see JJ, who was who's probably my favorite Dookie, Grant Hill, Steve Wojciechowski, Elton Brand, Carlos Boozer, Dunleavy, the list goes on, Lee Melchione, Matt Christensen, let's go. It's awesome, baby. But all these guys, me and Dickie V, we love them.
Kyle Singler, don't forget about him.
I love Singler too. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on, but it's the memories, it's the experience. And so it's not even necessarily worshiping them, but it's just like you reflect back on, man, Coach K played a key role in my sports fandom. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate that as a Duke fan, I've been able to witness. I didn't really witness the first two championships. I kind of came on right after that as bandwagon rider, of course, but witnessed the other three championships and lost in the championship as well. But that's to me what comes to mind. And then also, what I really appreciate is that he respects his wife the way that he does. Now, I don't know how he is personally, behind the scenes, but from what I can gather with the stories that I've heard and watching him honor his wife, just by holding her hand walking out, I find that very special and encouraging. And my wife and I even had a conversation about it that was cool. And so even Coach K's, just with his grandkids and his daughters, and he had a moment with his daughters after the game, and that they're involved in the program. He didn't sacrifice his family life. I'm sure there were sacrifices, but he didn't give up a family life. He didn't give up those relationships. He's a great friend. So those are some of the things, we talk about the worship. Nah, we don't worship him. He's a flawed man. He's a knucklehead. He still gets mad at the refs all these years later. He's 75 and coaching his last game, and he's worried about a foul call.
75. Wow.
Come on, coach, let it go, man. But anyway, those are just a few other things I wanted to get off my chest here on the podcast today.
I think it's a fascinating thing to discuss on. So when I think of my fandom for my favorite teams, my like I say Mavs 2011 all the time. But my love for the Mavs is not like I didn't win that championship. But
Oh, you didn't play?
yeah, shocker. Couldn't jump over a textbook in high school. Was Mr. Fundamental,
Nice.
energy guy on the bench.
There you go.
But the joy that it gave me with fellow Mavs fans and the entertainment it gave me and the memories as a sports fan, that's what our teams, our favorite players, our favorite coaches mean to us. It's those experiences. So why it's so special to see those former Duke players is because you're seeing your brain and the memories are fast forwarding while looking at all those players. It's like you're re-experiencing those memories again. But it's not like, oh man, it's not I'm centered around that 92 championship or that 2001 championship. Oh wow, that was a great day. But seeing those players, it's like, wow, the journey and the joy of being a Duke fan for you, you're reminded of all those amazing memories of being entertained, of shared experiences with fellow Duke fans. But even as a player, when you talk to players about what they miss most, they miss the locker room. They don't miss celebrating after the final buzzer. They don't miss the 5 seconds after the final buzzer. They miss the shared experiences with their teammates in the locker room. Oh, if I could just experience the locker room one more time. If I could just experience the bus rides one more time. So there's something about the memories of shared experiences that mean way more than success. And obviously success is fun, but as a sports fan, there's somewhat of a shared experience. And for me, I'm a Kansas fan. I had a shared experience in 2008 winning the championship. I had a shared experience losing to Northern Iowa in the round of 32 in like a few years after that.
What was his name? Freakarush.
Try to forget it, but
yeah, what was his name? I can't think of his name.
But do you get what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I'm explaining it clear enough, but to your point, the memories and the shared experiences is what's more meaningful than, the watching them cut down the nets. I don't know. I'm trying. It's hard for me to explain my train of thought.
It all factors in. But to me, it goes beyond the greatness. Like, that's a factor. And I think that speaks to we're drawn to greatness because we're drawn ultimately to God, who is the greatest, and we settle for sports all too often. But there's also a level of honoring and respecting just greatness in life and excellence that we notice. So there's a part of that. But yeah, I guess to me, it goes beyond how great of a career Coach K had. It's something personal for me, speaking to the experiences that you're mentioning as well. It all goes into that. The anticipation that I know Duke's playing tonight, or every Duke Carolina game that's been memorable, and the conversations you have even with Carolina fans over the years, and walking the middle school halls after a Duke win when I was the only Duke fan in the school. And so all of that. So I thank Coach K for that. You know, he helped facilitate and make all that happen in my career as a sports fan, my life as a sports fan.
So no, yeah, it does go beyond the greatness, because even fans of bad teams still have fond memories of supporting that team. And whoever, not to discredit Coach K, but whoever's playing or coaching for a team, they are impacting memories and shared experiences for fans. So for Coach K to be at a place for 42 years, he was the guy for 42 years. So yes, he was successful in basketball standards, but his longevity, 42 years of Duke memories belong to Coach K's leadership, which also makes him great because he was at the helm for that long. So he was able to give to Duke fans, no matter how good or bad they were, for 42 years.
Yeah, the consistency and reliability that provides. There weren't, there were some off season or down seasons, so to speak, but yeah, it's not like other programs that get a new coach every 5-10 years and then you start over and rebuild and all that kind of thing. It's been a consistency that's remarkable.
Yeah.
That you can't even. It's hard to find comparisons. It really is. So, would love to know any of your thoughts. Duke, but also just how you relate to it in your own sports fandom and some of your thoughts on this. Leave your comments. Send me an email, Bryce@unpackingit.com. All right. We spent a lot of the show on this topic, which it's a worthy topic. I didn't even scratch the surface. I got plenty more to say, but we'll stop there for a moment and get to the Medi-Share moment of the week. And speaking of shared experiences, something special happened in Charlotte it was Saturday night. It was actually kind of during the game, during the Duke Carolina game. So of course I was in on that, but the rest of the city was all in on the debut of a Major League Soccer team, Charlotte FC.
Oh yeah.
So this is a fascinating story, and there's actually a lot to unpack with this. And I'll share the moment of the week. So the moment of the week is the fact that the fans of Charlotte, and actually people drove in to be a part of this, they set the record for like the inaugural debut, and I think it was even like records for MLS attendance period. It was just an unbelievable crowd showed up for this first game. And then, there's always going to be issues your first game, right? So the issue was the national anthem microphone. During the national anthem, the microphone went out. So guess what happened? The crowd, this record-setting crowd, in unison sang the national anthem for the debut game. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is incredible. So you've probably seen it. It's gone viral. It's definitely worthy of the Medi-Share moment of the week. And so I'm very proud of the city and this new, this new team, this new fan base that is building. And I got to tell you, the excitement for this fresh start is remarkable. Now, I moved here just after the Hornets got here, but Hornets fans in the 90s were setting records for attendance. So this is a great sports town, and it's just intriguing to me that it's soccer at this point. And it almost seems kind of like the younger generation's really into it. And the Panthers, like I've told you before, we've got such a hybrid fan base here, meaning a lot of people move to Charlotte and they're fans of other NFL teams.
Ton of people from the Northeast, right? Moving down.
Oh yeah. For everywhere.
To Charlotte.
Ohio. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. So we got fans of everybody around town. We still have a lot of Panthers fans, but when visiting teams come, I've talked about,
they take over.
But to now have this new franchise that everybody can kind of connect to and rally behind is a unique opportunity that cities don't get very often. And especially at this stage of kind of sports, that's one of the leagues that actually is growing. So anyway, so they get a big crowd, they get to sing the national anthem. The Charlotte FC did not win the game. LA Galaxy won, but that's pretty cool. So check out Medi-Share.com/unpacking it. Thanks to Medi-Share for being our presenting sponsor and the sponsor of that segment. So what are your thoughts? What are your questions?
Soccer is king. Time to jump on board. We don't talk a lot of soccer, but I am a diehard soccer fan. Big fan of my Chelsea Blues, currently champions of Europe. FC Dallas fan, since I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth. That is the local team that I support.
We're coming for you.
Well, FC Dallas has been kind of on a struggle the past few seasons. But I will tell you, soccer is king, especially in regards to game environments. I think the thing I'm learning most is soccer fandom travels no matter what country you're in. Because we often compare, like football games are fun, NFL games are fun, but have you seen the fans at European soccer games? Have you seen the fans of English Premier League soccer teams? I'm thinking now that that's an unfair comparison because that's NFL to soccer. But we're seeing now soccer in the United States of America and in Canada. It's the same. You go to FC Dallas game, the fan section, absurd. An expansion team in Charlotte, a record-setting crowd. What, 70-something thousand fans?
Yeah.
Like soccer travels. The culture of being a soccer fan is you sing the whole game, you go berserk for goals. It's just it travels no matter what country you're in, and it's fascinating. It's something we're not used to if you're a NFL fan or an NBA fan. But I'm telling you, give soccer a chance. If you have an MLS team in your town, please go to a game. It is so worth it.
I'm waiting for the invite. So if somebody's got a ticket for me, I'll go. I will go to a game. It's gonna be a tough ticket to get. So if somebody wants me to go to a game, I will. I'll get over there.
I will say,
so.
kind of inexcusable for the microphone to go out. They're playing where the Panthers play, right? It's not a new stadium.
No, they should be. They should be ready to go. It was a little weak, but it turned out to be a cool moment. Maybe it was by design. Who knows? Maybe they thought that'd be cooler anyway, which it was. But the way that they did the lights and
I'm telling you,
apparently
soccer games are again. Please go to a game if you have a team in your city. It is so worth it.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but yeah, I haven't been to a soccer game and I haven't been to a hockey NHL game. So I've been
to go to a Charlotte Checkers game. Well, AAA hockey.
I
went solo.
Raleigh.
I went solo to a game the summer I lived in Charlotte, an intern for Unpacking It. Solo to a Charlotte Checkers game.
You didn't invite me to it.
To the Calder Cup, I believe what it's called. Charlotte Checkers were in the finals. It was fighting the whole game. It was unreal. Like AAA hockey is crazy.
I got to get over there for sure. So anyway, it's exciting. Some cool, just cool excitement. I bumped into somebody at church and he was at the game and it was like, oh, the place was rocking. And so who would have thought? Charlotte, the hub for soccer now. So there you go. All right, let's have some fun. We got to do tap drill with our remaining time together today. Some other interesting stories from the world of sports from the weekend. And let's say hello to Henry Bieneme. He's a little under the weather today, but hopefully he can get through it. And we'll let you get us going here. We may still have to talk a little Duke Carolina, but I'll let you take it where you want to go.
All right, boys. Glad to be back with you today. Let's actually stay with UNC Duke. Now, we all know about the Duke UNC rivalry. Did you guys pay attention to what happened in the quote unquote the handshake line? One of the Duke assistant coaches would not shake the hand of North Carolina head coach Hubert Davis, which seems to me that Duke, even after Coach Krzyzewski retires, that the Duke UNC rivalry is still going to be alive. Duke is still going to hate UNC. Tar Heels are going to hate the Blue Devils. That rivalry will go beyond Coach K. So my question to you boys is this. If you can, find me a better rivalry than Duke UNC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, of course, but to me, it always delivers. And the fact that throughout K's career, he's 50-47 shows you that it's a toss-up every game. You throw out the records, and it doesn't matter if you're on the road. It doesn't matter what happened the first game. It doesn't matter. And so that's what all you can always count on, at least one of the games delivering. There are some some blowouts, like Duke blew out UNC the first game, which ended up not being a great one. But this was very entertaining, competitive. Of course, all the pomp and circumstances we like to say on the show. But it still delivered. It really did.
Well, what sets it apart is they're 8 miles apart, the campus.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if your rival is located 1,000 miles away, even if it's a great rivalry, you're showing up to school and there's no opposing fans. You're all, and you live in the community, you're all wearing your team's colors, your team's logos. But Bryce, when you're saying you're going to school, there's Duke and Carolina fans at every middle school, every high school. Now, it's maybe lopsided depending on how close you live to the campus, but them being 8 miles apart, that makes the rivalry that much greater, is because all the fans of both teams live together. which makes
Yeah.
it so cool.
And like Charlotte, we're right in ACC country. So a lot of grads, I would say mainly UNC grads, live in Charlotte. But then we grow up, I didn't have family connected to either school. So I just got to choose which one. And I was drawn to Duke over Carolina. So I rooted for Duke. But then you have buddies that are the opposite. And a lot of my friends went to UNC. And while I was at App State, I was all in on the Mountaineers. But my fandom kind of grew over the years. It waned a little bit for Duke while I was in school, but then kind of coming out, I still love my alma mater, but my Duke basketball love has remained because it's long. It's a long love affair with Duke basketball. It really is.
I know. Now we're gonna get Shire versus Davis.
I like it.
It'll be interesting. Neither of them had a head coaching job before.
No,
they were just groomed assistants. And we're going to see. That's kind of fascinating. They both are going the same direction. Let's just have an assistant prepare them and give them their first head coaching job, filling the shoes of two of the greatest college basketball coaches to ever do it. So they're mirror images of each other, which adds to the rivalry greatness.
It is good timing.
Now, for me in particular, as far as Duke is concerned, I'm pretty sure Coach Shire will be a great coach. But for me, I thought the guy who was going to move next right after Coach K retired was going to be Jeff Capel. And then he wound up taking the job over at Pittsburgh. So for me, I thought it was going to be Jeff Capel that was going to be there. And I wanted to see Jeff Capel versus Hubert Davis because those were the guys that I knew and those were the guys that I grew up with. So it'll be interesting to see how the new head coaches, when they step up, or at least when Shire becomes the head coach next year, to see exactly how he keeps the rivalry going, quote unquote. And on a side note, I didn't actually have, because living in New York City, we have colleges in New York City. We have Columbia, we have St. John's, and when I was a kid, I grew up a St. John's fan only because we cheered for Chris Mullin. Chris Mullin was an alum there. But when I grew up and I moved to Connecticut, I got immersed into UConn. Well, into UConn, especially the women for their dominance back then when I moved up here in 2004. That was at the height of Gina Auriemma's powers. Now in 2022, you've got Tennessee, you've got Stanford, South Carolina is the number one team in the country, or at least they were at this point. And UConn's got like a whole bunch of rivals. It went from Vivian Stringer, it went from Pat Summitt, it went from Kim Mulcahy, I believe her name. Kim Mulkey, who still doesn't like him to this point. And so UConn itself has a whole bunch of rivals throughout the generation. So as far as UConn's concerned, it seems like it's UConn versus the entire NCAA. So you could take that for what you will. Now I have a question for you guys. When you guys go to a sports event, do you stay in the seat that you're in, or do you look to move down?
Well, you're bringing this up because Glenn Davis, apparently during the Boston Celtics game, former Celtic, he gets caught. He gets caught trying to move up to the courtside seats that weren't his, and ESPN caught it on video. And, hey, what do they call them? Ushers. Hey, these are your seats, or the people that were actually sitting there, like, hey, these are my seats. And so how embarrassing for Glenn Big Baby Davis that he's got to move. But when I was growing up, I'd always move down. I would if it was a Hornets game and it was the third quarter and there were empty seats, I was moving down. Now at this point in my life, I'm not sure the integrity behind that, so it's probably questionable. I don't think I would do it the same way that I used to. Again, because I've grown. But I understand the thought behind that. It's like, no, you got to move down if there's empty seats. But the biggest frustration is guys that don't show up. If you're in courtside seats, you don't show up till the third quarter. Somebody should be sitting in those seats. So there should be a process that, like, all right, who wants to come sit in these? We gotta fill these seats, because you can't be showing a game on TV and you got empty seats.
Yeah,
courtside. So you got to fill those. But trying to be sneaky and all that kind of thing, I try to be a little better than that at this point, but anyway, I can't claim that I never did.
I can't. I used to try, but I'm so big and I have red hair. I got caught every single time. I couldn't do it. My friends would sneak on down. I'm like, wait, what? So if you're an usher and you see high school guys sneaking down, you got to let them do it, right? If no one is showing up for the game, let the people move down, right?
Yeah.
As an usher, like if it's the third quarter and there's a ton of seats that are empty, should we force the people with their backs to the wall at the very top level to stay there when the bottom bowl is empty?
Yeah,
to me, it's like, just let them move down.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're all moving down. If they didn't fill, people didn't show up even though they paid for these seats, we already got our cash, so come on down.
Yeah, especially if I'm looking to buy tickets online and it shows that those tickets are bought, because they all are, and then they're just being resold. Like, it's not like I could have just bought that ticket in the first place. I was buying tickets, the only ones available. So I don't know. If I was an usher, I may turn a blind eye to that.
But we're also talking about a former player at the team
well,
that was funny.
That just makes no sense. Why?
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
What are we doing here?
Like, why is Big Baby Davis having to pay for a courtside seat? I mean, shouldn't he be the guy hanging out in the tunnel?
Is he beloved? Is he beloved?
That showed that him having a courtside seat and then having him moved shows how beloved he actually is, or lack thereof. But Bryce, if you do it now, and Luke, you'll find this out, the best place to move down is at a baseball game, because the stadiums are so big and not everybody goes to every single baseball game.
You can't sell out those places.
You can never sell out those places. So
guess what? They're all empty right now. Plenty of seats available. You're not watching anything, but the seats are available. Go stand up. Third baseline, you got it. First baseline, wide open.
Let me tell you, if and when baseball does come back, I guarantee you'll be able to find a seat, because probably not a lot of people are going to care anyway.
Well,
so we're going to move on. We're going to move on from that. And you guys mentioned it earlier today about the play-by-play announcers carousel. And now we even have another twist to that, where Monday Night Football analyst Brian Griese is going to step down from the booth and go into coaching. Now, I don't know about you guys. I've never heard of Brian Griese actually being interested in coaching. I don't know if he ever was a coach.
He's never coached.
I remember him as a quarterback, but he's actually going to be the quarterback's coach for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, we already know that position is already in flux. Is Jimmy Garoppolo staying? Is he going? Is Trey Lance going to be helped by this? So, boys, what do you think of Brian Griese going from Monday Night Football analyst to quarterbacks coach?
Yeah, I found that news fascinating, but the connection between him being a former Michigan guy and Tom Brady being a former Michigan guy, I think there was some overlap when they played together. It stirs my interest in Tom Brady to San Francisco. So I'm still buying that narrative. And so this just kind of adds to that. But as far as Brian Griese, I mean, he was out of a job with ESPN at that point, as far as Monday Night Football, because they got Troy Aikman. So that was the end for him. And he's fine. He's just kind of a vanilla broadcaster, in my opinion. Kind of take him or leave him, neutral guy. Doesn't really move the needle for me. So I'll be curious to see what he does in San Francisco. But I think he'll be getting Tom Brady prepared for Sundays. That's what I think.
Wonder what it's like. I mean, he hasn't played. He hasn't played since 2008. He's never had an official coaching position. So I wonder. I just think of the energy it takes to be a coach in the NFL. How many hours you put in. He hasn't been in the league in a coaching position. He's leaving a broadcasting job where you never work. You just broadcast. I mean,
come on.
Wow.
That's
shots fired.
Just going off what people say,
Shots
people-
fired.
Respectful.
Just saying, you get your weekends off. You're prepping. It's a hard job. Okay, it is a hard job in the moment, but the amount of days you work, it's much different than the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours he is about to put in as a quarterback's coach.
Holding
That's the big
clipboard
jump.
for Tom Brady. Come on. He's going into an easy gig. Let's go. But it's probably got to be a pay cut. I bet he makes less money. He was probably making good money at Monday Night Football. So as a positional coach,
You think he was making good money at Monday Night Football?
Make a ton.
I don't know if he really needed the money, to be quite honest with you.
Well, he did all right in the NFL.
Well, if you play that long, then if you
You
take
said he
care,
played
if
until
you take care of
2008, right?
business, you shouldn't. But you never know.
Yeah.
Now,
All
keeping in, and Bryce will do one more, and keeping in with the coaching carousel, it was just announced within the last 24 hours that Kirk Herbstreit is actually going to leave ESPN, and he's going to be doing games for Amazon for the NFL on Thursday nights. Now, we've seen Kirk Herbstreit call games for college. We've even seen him call a couple of games on the NFL level. So what do you guys think of Kirk Herbstreit as a primary play-by-play guy?
This is quite the turn in the broadcasting carousel, and I do not think this is the best option for the NFL. Kirk Herbstreit is a college football guy. He's a college football analyst. He didn't play in the NFL. He didn't coach in the NFL. This to me, actually, I'm gonna get fired up about. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that they're making a big deal about Amazon Thursday Night Football, the big brand of the NFL, and they're bringing on Kirk Herbstreit, who's a wonderful broadcaster, a wonderful analyst. He's the cream of the crop in college football. But he's a college football guy, and I understand he knows all these players because he watched them in college, but it's still different. It's just a different sport. It's a different game, and I think you could do better. I think there's other guys that are out there that have the NFL connections and have deeper NFL relationships. And maybe I don't know Kirk's relationships in the NFL. Maybe they are strong, but he's focused on Saturdays. He's doing College Game Day. So now we're going to try to squeeze all we have out of Kirk Herbstreit on Thursday night and then to turn around again on Saturdays. It's just unnecessary to me. There's other guys. We don't have to double dip on Kirk Herbstreit.
Don't double dip the chip.
No, we don't
Just
need
dip
it. Now,
and end it.
Now, you could challenge me on this because Charles Barkley does college basketball, right? He doesn't know anything about college basketball because he follows the NBA all year long. And during March Madness, we know he doesn't know the players' names and all that.
Only during March Madness. That's the key.
And he only does it during March Madness. But I love him, and he's great. And he could be doing hockey broadcasting. I don't care. Put him anywhere. Put him on every night. Put him on CSI. Put him on Law and Order. Put Charles Barkley everywhere.
CSI.
I'm watching.
Put him on The Masked Singer. Make him a judge.
That's right. I'm in for that. I've been watching Ken Jeong on I Can See Your Voice. Another good show.
You are all in on those shows.
Yeah. Ken Jeong, he was at the Duke game. That was fun. He was going nuts. But yeah, so I'm as far as the overlap, I'm okay with it with Charles Barkley, but I'm just not okay with it with Kirk Herbstreit. And also it's a game analyst. To me, you got to really know the ins and the outs, and you got to know what's going on. And to switch back and forth on the rules, even like college football is a little different than the NFL with some of the rules. So anyway, that's my take on it. We'd love to know the listeners' thoughts on this too.
If he was leaving ESPN, that would be atrocious because I want him to keep calling college football. So he's still calling college football. I mean, I love Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's great.
Kirk Herbstreit too.
He offers tremendous value on broadcasts. I mean, I guess it's interesting. Wasn't he the guy? Didn't he say Tyreek Hill? We got to get no more Tyreek Hills.
Yeah.
So
come on, man.
But that was unfair to him. Hey, go call an NFL game. I mean, I wonder if he'll get burned out.
I don't think he got the call the week before.
That's saying Tyreek Hill is unacceptable. As one of the faces of the NFL. But I wonder if he'll get burned out. Now, I know I just said broadcasting, you get a lot of days off. But to go from prepping for an NFL game and then traveling and then immediately having to prep and do college football games on Saturday, that must be exhausting. It has to be about the money. Maybe not. Maybe he wants to be in the NFL. I don't know.
I don't know. There's just too many players too. Like I think basketball. I was even thinking about. All right, Grant Hill does college basketball and the NBA, but everybody loves Grant Hill, and he can do anything. He's another guy. You put him anywhere, I'm in. But I think there's less players. Like you can kind of know the NBA. You can know all the players, especially if you've been around. And then I mean I think it's a little bit easier to juggle. But college football and the NFL and the weight of those like broadcast booths and the millions of people that are watching that. Even though it'll be less on Amazon because it's streaming, but who doesn't have Amazon Prime at this point, right? You got to have
that's a great question.
That's a good point.
Prime's a no-brainer.
That's a good point.
That's an easy one every year, whatever that cost is. But anyway, all right. So, well, hey Henry, thanks for playing hurt today. A little under the weather. Get better. We appreciate you, man. Luke, fun show. Congrats to Kansas. Big win over the weekend. But, hey, it's only the regular season. It's all about the conference tournaments and then leading into the NCAA tournament. And get this, next Monday, we'll be breaking down the brackets, baby. It'll be all in on March Madness. Let's go.
Let's go.
Selection Sunday. Oh, I cannot wait.
We'll have an Unpacking It bracket challenge. So keep an eye out for that.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Last year was fun.
Yes.
I started off strong. And then quickly regressed. So maybe this year's my year.
There you go. You got to go. I've never had a big year. I'm not a great bracket predictor. But
do you remember who won it last year?
Cousin Brian. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. In Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Brian's a sports machine.
He is. So shout out to him. All right. Well, great show. Appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for all the interaction and feedback. Good show. Thanks for lifting my spirits after a tough Duke loss. Like I said earlier in the show, I got the Trader Joe's win. So still feeling good following the weekend after that. But appreciate everybody. I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Make sure you subscribe to the Unpack This devotional. Today's topic was really about grace, and even on the nights that we let God down, we have mistakes, we stumble. His grace remains, his love remains, and so we cling to that today. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast, presented by Medi-Share.